From the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Hello everyone, welcome to OpenLine. Good show tonight. Nashville essentially is at a time of choosing. What are we going to do about our traffic? Certainly a lot of people talk about it. It is a major topic of conversation. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight. There is a new report out with some recommendations for how to improve transit in Middle Tennessee. We're going to talk about that report, its price tag, what are you willing to do, what do you want to do? All of that is on the table tonight. Happy to have with us Steve Bland, the CEO of the Nashville Metropolitan Transit Authority and the Regional Transportation Authority. Steve, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Ben.
Also, Kim McMillan, the mayor of Clarksville and the chair of the Regional Transportation Authority. Thank you, Mayor, for being with us.
Thank you, Ben.
All right, so people are frustrated with traffic. How is this set of recommendations, how is it going to help improve traffic in our area? And who wants to take that? Steve, I'll start with you. What is this going to do to help?
Well, the in-motion report that both the RTA and the MTA boards received about 2 weeks ago came after over a year of extensive public engagement, about 18,000 engagements in all. And what people are saying is they really want more options. You know, as you point out, Ben, we're seeing more and more corridors getting more and more congested, and people perceive that they don't have many options. So a lot of what's embedded in the plan is just more choices for Middle Tennesseans and how they get around.
And as the mayor of Clarksville, it's an indication this is a regional issue. People are frustrated in downtown Nashville, but they're frustrated trying to get back and forth to Murfreesboro, Clarksville, all kinds of things. What can we do about that?
Well, I think that initially, Ben, we've got to look at this as a regional plan, and I think that's what we're doing, and that's what's so important about the recommendations that have come forward. Because instead of treating a lot of the counties in Middle Tennessee as independent silos, we're saying how can we all work together to move that traffic? Because nowadays we're seeing that people really, they need to travel between the counties, not just to Nashville, but to Nashville and beyond and back. And so I think that's what's so important about this plan and so enlightening.
So when you break this plan down, we're talking about 25 years, and you have short-term, middle-range, long-term proposals. You add it all up, it's very expensive. Mm-hmm. What is it, $6 billion?
Yes, just under $6 billion, Ben.
So we can talk about that in a moment. How are we going to pay for that? Are we willing to pay for it? But what are you recommending, short-term, middle-term, long-term?
Well, a lot of the short-term enhancements are quick enhancements to the existing system. What we hear consistently from people, the Music City Star is a great example. It's Nashville Region's one and only commuter rail line. People love the Star. It's reliable. You can beat the I-40 traffic between Wilson County and, but we don't have enough trips. It doesn't run late enough into the evening. So a lot of the shorter term enhancements are service improvements, more frequent trips. Mayor McMillan's area is a great example. The Clarksville commuter service is the fastest growing ridership segment we have. We're adding another trip in October. And we get demand for more and more of that type of service. It's also an investment in technology, so making it simpler to pay your fare, and also integrating our mass transit system with other options like what Uber and Lyft and taxis are doing to make those broader connections throughout Middle Tennessee.
So with the Music City Star, when might we see something change there? I mean, could it be, how soon are we talking?
Well, a lot, frankly, depends. Right now, we are in the comment period for the plan, as you indicate, and we're well over 500 folks commenting so far. Very well-informed comments and very reasoned papers and analyses that we've seen that have been really interesting to read. After the RTA and MTA boards adopt a final plan, we move into a program of projects, and frankly, the sequencing of that will probably be as controversial as the plan itself. So, you know, do Star improvements, do extra trips on the Star come first, or is it something in one of the other regional corridors? I think one of the most fascinating things we've been talking about in terms of an accelerated implementation is a program called Bus on Shoulder operation with the Tennessee Department of Transportation, where for some nominal investments in the relative short term, we'd be able to operate our commuter bus service in the shoulder, giving it a little bit of a competitive time advantage.
When you start talking about these topics, it is controversial. There's a history of some real controversy in Nashville alone. how concerned are you about that aspect of it? How kind of gingerly do we need to get into these things, and how concerned are you about how controversial all of this is?
Well, what I'd like to say is that I use the example of Clarksville as one to show that it may be controversial, but sometimes it's controversial when you take it away. For example, before I became mayor, Montgomery County and Clarksville was not a member of the RTA. We quickly joined the RTA and very quickly realized we needed to give more options to folks in Clarksville and folks in Nashville and beyond that wanted to come to Clarksville, a different option other than just driving a single car on Interstate 24. So we started the commuter bus service, and what that did was say we're going to have a trip that's going to pick you up in Clarksville and it's going to take you to Nashville and then it's going to bring you back at the end of the day. That was so popular that it, quite frankly, we kind of realized we were going to have to add additional trips very quickly. We're up to 4 trips a day now, so that's multiple buses that are leaving at multiple times. We've had to increase the size of our park and ride lots, and all of that has happened very quickly, just in the last 3 or 4 years. So when I see how quickly we've been able to go from having nothing to having something that's so expansive, I realize that even though we're talking long term, we can create some of these options quicker than a lot of people think. And I can tell you now, if I were to tell the people in Clarksville, I'm taking away your ability to ride the commuter bus, that would be as controversial as trying to implement sometimes new programs. So I think that people are starting to realize that they really want new and different options, and the more options we give them, the less controversial all this becomes.
When you start talking about this in the short term, I think people think, okay, what they're talking about is some sort of, rail system. And that's certainly long term, and that is not easy.
Not easy, not cheap.
And not cheap. But it's one of those things people just immediately gravitate toward. Bring us down to reality. What is realistic in the next 3 years, and what might people see?
Well, one of the things we have in the works right now, a project that's underway, is the replacement of the MTA and RTA fare collection system so that people will be able to pay with their smartphones, pay with much more simplified apps, and also make it, frankly, an interactive and an open payment system so that, for instance, somebody who maybe doesn't have the ability to get a credit card or a normal banking relationship can have an account in that system that would be usable for taxi service if that's more appropriate for them, or what have you. Other relative service enhancements, the frequency changes. An exciting project we're already working on with Metro Nashville, with the Public Works Department, with Mayor Berry's office in the Murfreesboro Road corridor, is upgrading the overall traffic signal program in that corridor with transit priority. So if a bus in that corridor with a certain number of people is running behind schedule, it can get an extended green or an early green to make that trip more reliable and a little bit quicker. Those are examples of the incremental improvements, and I think, as we said at the RTA board when we made the presentation, the headline coming out of it will be, $6 billion rail plan proposed. But what we hope is when people go through the plan documents, they look at those 50 or 60 other things and say, yeah, some of this is pretty cool too. So it's been kind of funny as I read some of the comments, people say, well, I hate your plan, or I love your plan. Well, could you be a little more specific? Is there a particular element you like or that you don't like, and that we hope people start to view it in its totality?
When I look at the traffic right now in Nashville and the number of people moving in, sometimes I worry that we've reached a point that we can't kind of turn the corner. And it's just so many people are moving here. It wasn't a city, I feel like, that was designed to handle this number of people. Is it too late? How can we turn? Do you feel comfortable or confident that we can turn this around fairly quickly? Or, the big thing everybody says, we don't want to be Atlanta, or we headed down that road. And I'll let either one of you answer that. For somebody who's like, I just worry the ship has sailed on this and that it's almost too late to do anything.
Well, I would just say that it's never too late, and in fact, I think the time is right. And the example that I gave previously, I think, spreads all across the Middle Tennessee region, and that is there are new and different and exciting programs on the horizon, and the more we implement them, the quicker and faster we can continue to move forward. For example, those that live in Clarksville, obviously, as you know, we're known for the monkey song, Last Train to Clarksville, really want that service, that rail service. But everybody knows that's not something we can do overnight, and it is very expensive, and so we've got to work with the federal government and state government in order to access the funds to do that. But while we're doing that and accessing those funds to be able to rehabilitate those tracks, we can continue to look at these new programs, Bus on Shoulder, so people can realize they can actually make that trip much quicker. We can look at public-private partnerships, which the legislature just recently this session passed to allow us to be able to enter into different types of new and innovative programs to move transportation. That's what people want, is just to be able to get from point A to point B, and the more programs we can implement to help them do that, the better off we are in looking and actually realizing these long-term solutions like hard rail.
And I'd like to tap into something that Mayor McMillan said, that is, starting today or right now is the best we can do. The longer we wait, the more expensive it gets, the more difficult it gets. And other cities are dealing with this now. Seattle's now out for a $30 billion program. A number of other cities. Phoenix just passed, I think, a $40 billion program. So it doesn't get any cheaper. And then the other point I'd make is it's not just about the mass transit investment, the transportation investment. It's really how do we want to grow as a region. And you hit the nail on the head, Ben. Frankly, I don't think any of us would say the $6 billion investment is necessary for the Middle Tennessee of today. But you're looking at projections that say 1 million more people will be in this region in the next 25 years. And if you're sitting on I-24 at rush hour right now, that's really kind of hard to fathom. And if you look at the skyline of downtown Nashville and you see 12 or 15 construction cranes, that's what really we're trying to build toward, is what are those short-term improvements that will provide real choice for Middle Tennesseans today and build out a future for our children and grandchildren.
All right, I see we have several calls, so hold on the line. We're going to take a break, and then we'll start taking your calls. There's some lines open if you want to call in. There's the number 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Take a break. Be back right after this.